EA Interviews, episode 140.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the Imperfect Action Round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
I have a serious topic we're going to be talking about today. I have Kirk Mote, and I can't wait for him to share. As the founder of Rescue Site Services, he helps people live. His goal is to get cardiac arrest to target 0. I don't know about you, but there's people that I've been affected by in my life, and I didn't know this stat. I knew cardiac arrest are a problem, but I didn't know how big of a problem they are. And forgive me if I missed one, but I was reading his bio, and it's impressive. And it was saying that there's like 475,000 cases a year, and it causes more deaths than colorectal cancer, breast cancer, like 15 other cancers, and a whole slew of other things, deaths in the house, deaths outside of the house. And it was just staggering to me because you don't really think about it. You go outside, you go to your business, you do all these different things, and you don't think about, maybe you're wondering about driving, maybe the airplane, and it's a lot. Maybe you get struck by lightning. All these things don't even come close to what the numbers are with cardiac arrest. And I'm excited to have him on the show today because he has a wealth of information and he's going to be sharing a lot of good information I want to learn myself. And it's an impressive story in how he came to be. So I'm going to bring him up right after we thank our sponsor.
There's money in the metrics. Do you know yours? Pipedrive is the simplest and easiest CRM to close more deals, deepen your relationships, and increase your business profits. Get your free trial today at eainterviews.com/pipedrive.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kirk Mote. Kirk, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mario. Thank you, and thank you, Expert Authority Nation, for having me on the show. Very excited to be here with you all.
I appreciate that, and I'm excited for you to share because, like I was saying, I was going through your bio, and what you're doing is incredible, and I have no doubt you're making a difference. And it's one of the things I look for because there's so many great people in the world, successful, this, that, the other thing. But I'm like, who's really making a difference? I have nothing against if you're selling trinkets and this, that, the other thing. Good for you. I mean, they sold a pet rock. It's an inspiring story, but there's a lot of people that don't get the recognition, that don't get the visibility, and it's why I'm excited to showcase you. So how did it all start?
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, I had the opportunity to listen to a Holocaust survivor give her testimony. And it was during that testimony that an elderly gentleman stood up, shuffled his way over to the door, and collapsed from a heart attack. No one knew what to do. Now, I had previously been trained in CPR, so I went to work barking out orders like, hey, you call 911 and you go get the AED. By the time I got the man's shirt off, an off-duty nurse joined the rescue with that requested defibrillator, and together we put the pads on him. Analyzing heart rhythm, the defibrillator said. I'm like, clear. Shock advised. Again, I'm saying no one touch the patient. Deliver shock. Shock delivered. Begin CPR. In 1, 2, 3, 4. After that first shock, it induced something called agonal gasping. It basically looks like you're breathing, but you're not. Now, to paint you a picture of the scene, all of his children, all of his grandchildren were there witnessing his death. This was a very emotional moment in time, as you can imagine. In fact, one of his daughters started yelling at me, get that off of him, you're going to hurt him. She had no idea because she had never been trained. As you can imagine, during the next few weeks after an event like this, I decided to do some research. And I discovered that this isn't, in fact, not an isolated incident. In fact, heart disease is the #1 cause of death in the world. In 1 year alone, 475,000 Americans die from sudden cardiac arrest, and over 70% of that number happen at home. This is someone you know, someone you love. However, I believe we can create a world where no one dies from sudden cardiac arrest. And you spoke about it in your intro, Target Zero. And that is the vision, to create a world where no one dies from sudden cardiac arrest. So in the past 5 years, I've helped thousands of people just like you gain the knowledge and acquire the resources to save the lives of a coworker, a friend, family member, and even complete strangers. And whether you don't have a defibrillator, whether you have one and it's old and out of warranty, or whether you have multiple defibrillators in locations all across the country, we have developed a program for you. And so in the next, few minutes, the time that we have together today, I'm going to be sharing with you how we help communities and organizations build successful AED programs that focus on awareness, education, design, implementation, and maintenance. See, Rescue Site Services was created to make sure your AED program is properly designed and implemented, that is compliant, completely documented, and in the hands of a trained volunteer responder who is ready to rescue.
Well, that's impressive. And I want to ask you, for anyone who doesn't know what an AED is, what is it and where do you get one?
Yeah, I know that some of you are still thinking to yourself, Kirk, what is an AED, right? Well, I'm glad you asked, Mario. AED stands for Automatic External Defibrillator. So an automatic external defibrillator, or AED for short, some people just say defibrillator, is a lightweight portable device that delivers an electric shock through the chest to the heart. The shock can stop an irregular heartbeat and allow a normal rhythm to resume following a sudden cardiac arrest.
Sinus rhythm?
And say that
Sinus
again?
rhythm?
No, what do you mean by that?
Isn't that what it's called, a regular rhythm?
Oh, so there's two irregular rhythms, that the VFib or the VTAC, and basically it's where your heart is sputtering, beating, or beating way too slow, and either one of those are irregular beat that needs to be shocked. Now, if it's stagnant, that's not a shockable rhythm, unfortunately. But yeah, those are the two heart rhythms, the technical terms, if you would, that can be shocked back into rhythm.
And where does someone get one? Because I've seen them. I've never used one, but how would you get one for your home?
Yeah, so traditionally, people don't look for one in their home because they're not thinking about this, right? They're thinking, oh, this isn't going to happen to me. A heart attack is for someone, this old and, midlife crisis or bad arteries, doesn't eat right, doesn't work out. The truth is that a heart attack can happen to anyone at any time. A sudden cardiac. So let me just back up a second.
No, please do.
There's a difference between a heart attack and a sudden cardiac arrest. Your heart attack is basically a blockage of artery, right? And a sudden cardiac arrest. So that's your traditional, your widowmaker. It's blocked. The artery's clogged. The sudden cardiac arrest is actually an arrhythmia issue. It's an electrical issue, which means this could happen to anyone at any time, including newborn babies, middle schoolers, high schoolers, college-age students. There was a girl in my high school that was, top physical fitness. In the middle of a volleyball game, boom, collapsed from a sudden cardiac arrest. Now, gratefully, she was able to be revived because guess what? They had an automatic external defibrillator with real CPR help, and I'll explain what that is a little bit later, with volunteer trained responders that were ready to, act at a moment's notice because they had training and the confidence, the knowledge, and resources to respond.
Do you need, it sounds like you need training. Do you need training to use the AED?
That's a great question. So a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm going to have training. And the truth is training cuts down your response time. So I'm a huge proponent of training because you're going to respond how you train. If you haven't trained, then you're not going to respond quickly or correctly in most cases. So absolutely, I would encourage training. However, the best part about these devices is they're dummy proof. All you got to do is hit the on button and it'll literally take you through every single step. Stay calm, check responsiveness, call for help, attach defib pads to victim's bare chest. At literally every step of the way, there's no question of what to do next. And guess what? I can put a live unit on you, myself, right here, right now, and it's not going to shock me. Why? Because we don't have one of those two irregular heart rhythms.
It can sense that?
Earlier. It can sense that. And that's what's going on during that analyzing process that I kind of took you through during the opening scene.
What margin of error do you have? Like if you're putting the pads on, how much room do you have to put them in the wrong spot, basically, or not?
Yeah, so great question. When you put on an AED, traditionally you have what is known as two separate electropads. One goes up over here, and one goes a little bit lower down here. And so what happens is there's two separate pads. However, the Zoll AED Plus, which is my favorite AED on the market, in case you haven't noticed yet, it has something called a Z pad, which is incredible. So what this pad does is it actually connects in the middle with a bullseye of where you should give your compressions. And guess what? If the victim is obese, which unfortunately the majority of Americans are obese, believe it or not, if you look at statistics, there's an extra meter of wire that you can wrap it around so that it's in the proper position.
It is kind of dummy proof. I'm like feeling confident about this now. I'm still not sure I want it on me, but that's good to know that it can sense that and everything. So here's something else that came to mind. All right, so hopefully no one has to deal with this legitimately, but the statistics are going to, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100, more people than would like to. Battery powered, electrical, this has happened in the heat of the moment. Do I also have to look for a wall plug, or am I good to go?
When you say a wall plug, are you talking about for
electrical.
The defibrillator?
Is the thing on a battery pack, or do you have to plug it in like a TV?
Yeah, no. So this is a portable device, okay? And so there's actually a battery pack within the AED itself, and it can do hundreds of shocks. So I mean, you turn it on, it can literally do hundreds of shocks, which is perfect for what we need to happen here. So yeah, there's no plugging it into a wall. Everything is in that kit. And when I say everything, I'm talking down to the gloves that you need, because you want to wear gloves whenever you're dealing with a situation like this. Because when someone dies, what's inside of them comes out because their muscles relax. So that's feces, urine, vomit. Okay, those are things that will naturally happen when your muscles relax. And so you want to be wearing gloves whenever you're dealing with a situation like that. We also have a face shield. And what that means is when you go mouth to mouth, by the way, never go mouth to mouth unless you have a face shield, because without a face shield, you don't know what they have, right? And what that means is if you go mouth to mouth, you are now getting what they have to yourself, your spouse, your family. And what we have here is now more than one victim. And the goal here is to have at most one victim and ultimately bring it back.
So you obviously know what you're talking about and can help people, because you're helping me right now, and I know there's others that are hearing this and you're helping them. How do you find the perfect person to be able to help with your training? Is it one-on-one? Are you taking people through group classes? How are you helping the people that you're helping?
Yeah, so again, kind of give you a little backstory about the company. So when that event happened, by the way, my wife gets on to me all the time. I forget to tell the end of the story. The guy lived. Okay, the guy actually lived, which is super exciting. So I wanted to not leave your listeners hanging there. So I decided that, hey, listen, I need to become a CPR instructor, because remember, over 70% of these deaths happen at home. That's someone you know, that's someone you love. So my goal is, hey, I don't care if you pay me. I just wanted you to know how to save the lives of your loved ones. I think this is, a skill that everyone should have. So I started out doing CPR classes in friends and family's houses. And then that grew into, getting contracted to do federal agencies. I mean, we grew, and which is awesome. So November of last year, so a little over a year, I, sat down with my wife. I was like, hey, listen, let's have a little come to Jesus meeting. What do we need to do next? Because to date, we have been solely focusing on CPR training. And that's just the knowledge. And there's a whole other part to this, which is the resources. And knowledge without resources is useless, and vice versa. So if I have all the knowledge in the world, but I don't have the utensils to perform the brain surgery, same thing. If I know how to save a life, but I don't have the shock of an AED, it's not going to work. And so I said, let's create a more holistic company. So originally it was called Mote for Life. Okay, my last name is Mote, as cheesy as it sounds. So Mote for Life was the CPR training company. So we decided to transition it to Rescue Site Services, is who we are today. And the more holistic approach is the 4 steps, if you would. We got the hardware, software, training, and maintenance. So the hardware is going to be the defibrillator itself, right? The software is going to be, we actually licensed the #1 AED program management solution in the world. Okay, so I mean, I can give you details on that will blow your mind. And then, of course, we do the training, and it's realistic scenario-based training, because I believe that, hey, look, you're going to respond how you train. And if you're just watching a video of how to train, guess what? You did not blow air into someone's lungs. You didn't pump on someone's chest for compressions. How are you going to respond when something actually happens in front of you? Well, how you train. And so we make sure that you train properly with us. And then, of course, maintenance. Because guess what? If there is an AED and the pads are expired or the batteries are out of date, that AED is useless. It's so often I go into businesses that, have the AEDs because, someone said that we should, and they were never maintained. And guess what? They're this wall mounts. And unfortunately, so many times there are situations where they go to use them and they weren't able to be used, and the life was lost because they didn't maintain their program.
How long do they last for when you do maintain them? Should you check them every year, every 6 months? I remember you saying there's 1,000 shocks out of it, which is great if you're riding an EMS, but how long are they good if you're not using it?
Yeah, maybe not 1,000 shocks. There's hundreds of shocks, but let me back it up a little bit. We have the AED market is kind of like the car market in the sense that there's multiple makes and models. Okay, so we have 6 FDA approved manufacturers of AEDs, and each manufacturer has multiple models. So each model has a little bit different pad life and battery life. So they range anywhere from 2 to 5 years, right? And so the Zoll AED Plus is everything's on a 5-year track. You get a 5-year warranty plus 2 if you use our program. We'll give you an extra 2, and then you have 5-year pads, 5-year battery. And so what that means is when we developed your AED program, we put it in the nice little wall mount, put it in your office. Hopefully you never have to use it, but for the next 5 years, you're good to go. And that's what's awesome about our program is we make sure everything is taken care of for you. So, I mean, listen, this is not what you do every day, right? I mean, this is probably the first time that some people have heard of a defibrillator. When I talk to people, it's like, hey, do you have a defibrillator? I get this blank stare, like, what is that? Well, it's the thing you see in the movies where they shot. Oh, okay, right.
I was thinking of Chicago Fire Med and PD. I'm like, yeah, I know how to use it. I've seen it. I'm there.
Right. So that's exactly. And I think 2020, we are going to be really focusing on education marketing because there's a huge gap in what is going on out there and what people know about. Okay. Like we have the technology to save lives, but if you don't have that technology in your house, then it's kind of useless. And so that's the ultimate goal is to get an AED in every home, apartment, everywhere that you live, because that's where you're spending, time. We want to have an AED in every home in America.
That's a great goal. And I'm excited because you got me thinking of some people I know in the medical field. And I don't know what can come of it, but I love connecting people, and I'd be happy to make an introduction. And because it sounds like you could partner with hospitals or private practices, small businesses, because it doesn't matter if it's a home or a business, you can help them. It's just a matter of if it's 5 or 10 people versus 50 or 100 or, more.
Exactly.
And it sounds like it could also be complementary to someone that's already maybe selling to the hospital and going into different areas. They might, it's a complementary program. You're not crossing over with them. And likewise, I'm sure you have connections that they might not be somewhere where you are.
100%. And the big, like most hospitals have the defibrillators because they're required to.
I'd hope so.
Right. But the big gap is at homes. And in order to get into the homes, we need to get to every business, because until they're in every business, the light bulb of the consumer is not going to go off and say, oh, I should probably have one in the house.
Why do you think they don't? I'm thinking of stuff they sell at stores. Why do you think they don't talk about it at grocery stores or electronic stores or stuff like that, where people are at all the time, even if there was an end cap? Just,
it's a great question. And, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, the price point's anywhere between $1,200 and like $1,700 for a defibrillator. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to spend $1,700 on a defibrillator in the house that I'm never going to use. Great. I hope you never have to use it, but you'd rather have it, not need it, than need it and not have it. Right. And I sit there and look at their iPhone, their iWatch, their iPad, their Mac, and I'm like, how much is that again? I mean, you have the means and resources to, pay the cost of this life-saving device. It has everything to do with what you value. And it's sad to me that, on the whole, we don't value life anymore. And that is, honestly, to answer your question, I think that's what it comes down to, is the value of human life is not what it used to be.
Well, that's pretty sobering. And no, I didn't expect that. But you're right, because you're saying $1,700. I'm going, yeah, the new phones are pretty darn close to it. Throw in that watch in a plan, and heaven forbid you get a extra $100 case, which doesn't even make sense.
Right.
So is there any programs that allow someone to say, just like a car, they can say, well, here's $500 now and pay $500 a year over 3 years for it?
Great question. So this is exactly the model that I was like, okay, if people are willing to pay thousands of dollars for their technology, they're not typically paying for it outright out of pocket. They're typically putting it on a plan, like you said. So I started scouring the web. All right, how can we finance these AEDs? And to date, I have created a leasing option, if you would. For $73 a month, we are able to give you your hardware, which is going to be your defibrillator, a wall cabinet, sign. And we also include 5 years of AED program management solution. That is the program that I told you. It's called Plus Track, and it's literally the #1 AED program management solution in the world, and it's incredible. I mean, if you use your AED, heaven forbid, guess what? That is now medical, records of the victim, which means that has to be turned in to be analyzed. If you're a small business and that was your only AED, you're out of luck. You don't have an AED until that analyzation process is complete. Not anymore. We provide overnight shipping of an AED so that you're never without an AED. Okay? But to come back to that question about the leasing option. So yeah, we created a leasing option, but unfortunately it's only for business. So we're trying to figure out a partnership with a company that would allow B2C, to the customer, the consumer.
All right. So I have to ask you this, and okay, Expert Authority World, don't tell on me, but if I got one for my company and brought it home, how would anyone know?
I mean, you are your company, are you not?
I'm not going to report me.
So here's the thing. If you have a company, yes, you can get a credit application approved through your company. And if your company has a home office, there you go. So I would highly recommend that.
But even if you don't, you said the device is portable.
It is portable.
Maybe I want to bring it with me to an expo in the car.
Listen, I carry one everywhere I go because you never know when someone or a family member that's traveling with you might have a sudden cardiac arrest. And I want to make sure that, gosh, if I left that AED in my living room and I forgot it one day, oh my gosh, I had the means, the resources, and the knowledge to respond and save a life. I don't think I'd be able to live with myself knowing that I forgot that device.
Let me ask you, you got me thinking about some events I'll be speaking at coming up, including travel. How big is this thing? Can I put it in a carry-on suitcase?
Stand by. I'll show it to you. And we're back. So, boom.
Okay.
There you go. And the fish was this big, right? Yeah, so it fits. I mean, you can see the palm of my hand is this big. It comes in a black carry case. And in fact, since we are on video, sorry for those who aren't watching this on video.
Check out the show notes page on eainterviews.com. It'll all be there.
This is a picture. This is a live feature Z-pad that I was telling you about earlier. So you see how there's the actual bullseye right here? That's where it goes in the center of the chest, where you give proper impressions.
Oh, man, you can't screw that up. There's pictures and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I can do that.
Mean, check this out. So this has something called Real CPR Help. Real CPR Help is a technology that provides real-time feedback on rate and depth of chest compressions and supports rescuers with integrated text, voice, and visual prompts. So to break this down to you, this thing, like that technology in the AED, if you're not pushing hard enough, it'll tell you push harder. If you're not pushing fast enough, there's a metronome which will lead you to the right rate. And if you are in fact pushing hard and fast, doing it correctly, it'll verbally say good compressions.
And that's the Zoll you're talking about?
The Zoll AED Plus. Yes, sir.
Where would you get one of those? Do you sell them exclusively? Are they just any old place on Amazon? Do you need a medical whatever license?
Great question. You can Google it right now. Zoll AED Plus, and you can find all kinds of people selling it. Unfortunately, they don't provide the service that I provide, and they don't provide the package of $73 per month. When I look at some of my competitors, they're charging over $100 per month to lease an AED.
And that's just the machine you're saying?
Yes. And so when I say this is a machine, it's a machine and a wall mount. Okay. So I also provide.
But you're saying you have the maintenance and the service along with it. It's not just the machine, the wall mount, and that.
Right. So I'm not going to come out to your location once a month. We have an app, and that app allows you to scan a QR code inside the wall mount or on the AED itself. And as long as there is, in fact, I'm not sure if you can see it, but a green check mark right here, that means that the AED is in good working order and can provide life-saving shocks. If there's an X, then hey, there's something wrong, give me a call, we'll take care of it.
So how do you sell these around the world, only in the US, only overseas? How do you get to everyone?
Yeah, so currently we're in the United States. So we sell from California, New York, down to Florida, up to Washington State. Like we sell in the United States. We are in the process of expanding to Canada, Mexico, and Australia. So we're getting bigger, which is super exciting. So if you're not in the United States, we're coming your way.
I got to ask you, you shared one success story, but what's been the biggest success story or transformation for a business that incorporated your program?
So kind of thinking back on some awesome experiences, right? We trained thousands of people, okay? And unfortunately, we're not able to capture all of the success stories, but I will share with you one in particular, which is incredible. Literally weeks after we gave a life-saving CPR and AED training course, this lady was going to a community event she attended every week. And one of the people there was a victim of a heart attack. And guess what? She knew what to do. And that is why we do what we do, because you now have the knowledge, the resources, and the confidence to correctly respond in an emergency situation. And that's why we do what we do.
Well, I'm glad that you do, because so many people need it. And unfortunately, it's part of life. It's like everyone likes business when it's going well, but when it's not, I mean, I know a lot of this can be from stress and anxiety alone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're exactly right.
Age doesn't matter. The money in your bank account, if this is happening to you, isn't going to save you, but this device will. The knowledge
and what's
will.
your life worth? Can you put a price tag on a life? I can't.
Apparently, it's only $1,700 to get one of these, and you're good to go.
Well, I'd love to help you out with that. And we'll break it down to $73 a month if you like.
See, and that's the other thing that I was trying to get at when you're saying it's $73 a month and the competitors are doing it for $100, but that's $100 just for the wall mount and the AED. That's not your maintenance program and the other stuff. So that's even better.
Correct. Yeah, 100%.
So I have one more question before we thank our sponsor and go to the imperfect action round, and it is, where do you see this going in 5 or 10 years? If you had all the money and the time in the world, what would you do now to get this into every, let's say, business? Because I think if you get all the businesses, like you said, it's that trickle-down effect.
100%.
What would you do differently for the next decade to say, all right, by the 2030, we're going to have the U.S. for sure, the U.S. covered in the world? What would it take to have everyone and get it down to zero, like target zero?
Yeah, so it's going to require partnerships. And I'm not talking about, the kind that are looking to make a buck. We're talking about people that are passionate about lives, human lives. That's who we're protecting and saving here. We want to have partnerships with people that see the value in a human life and realize that, hey, look, after a heart attack, your life's purpose may not have been fulfilled yet. And if I can get you a shock that brings you back to life, and you can go out and now be a proponent to other people or fulfill your purpose that you have been neglecting for the past 50, 60, 70 years, and have another couple of years or decades, like that's what we're all about. We need to have partnerships with companies, with individuals, and that's going to be what breaks Rescue Sight into a world branded household name, because without your help, I can't do this by myself. I'm a guy from Georgia, right? I mean, I need the help and the resources that are beyond, anything that I have. And until I have those partnerships with people like Mario and with, companies that are, massive, like until I have those resources and those partnerships, we're not going to be able to make Target Zero a reality.
Well, I think you're well on your way, and I'm excited that we could connect because you got my brain going. I'm trying to stay focused and ask the right questions in the right order. But there's people I'm thinking of. Another one, he was another VIP guest on the show, and I'm going to connect you with some people when we get done with this. But we have to thank our sponsor, and we'll be back with the imperfect action round.
Don't stay stuck in startup mode. That's what I tell my audiences and clients, and why I advise using Pipedrive for all of your customer relationship marketing needs in your business. You want more leads, you want more deals, and ultimately more clients. Who doesn't? But when I deliver you 100 more deals a quarter, can you handle it? A month? A week? A day? Which one of those made you the most nervous? Saying you want it over and over like a record on repeat is one thing. The reality, however, is that your subconscious is stopping you at some point, and it's because you want A, but your business is set up for B. Whether you have a system or you are that system, Pipedrive will upgrade your deal closing experience, increase your profitability, and make your day-to-day more enjoyable. Get your free trial today at eainterviews.com/Pipedrive. Don't waste another day being this system or using a subpar system to grow your empire. There's no need to make it harder than it already is. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/Pipedrive.
And we are back with the imperfect action round. Kirk, are you ready to take imperfect action?
Let's do it.
All right, so these are rapid fire questions. I got 3 of them, 60-second or less answers. The first one is, what is the fastest path to the cash in your experience?
Fastest to making money. Let's see here. Probably one of the fastest ways to make money. Oh man, you got me hitting on the spot.
For entrepreneurs and businesses.
For entrepreneurs and businesses. So the biggest problem I see, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or small business, bank or nonprofit, retailer, manufacturer, restaurant, or mall, the biggest problem I see is that decision makers are thinking about AEDs all wrong. You're thinking about it all wrong. Everyone is scared and telling you that a defibrillator is a liability, when in fact, I'm saying that an AED is your biggest asset. You see, you have less than a 5% chance of survival from a heart attack in the United States because you have a 5% chance of survival. Yeah. Because if it only takes 4 minutes for your brain to have irreversible brain damage. And last I checked, it takes a little bit longer than 4 minutes for 911 to respond. So could you develop your AED program on your own? Of course, but many people try and then come to me 6 months later. The number one emotion expressed is regret. Basically, to rescue a victim in cardiac arrest, you need an AED that is ready to deliver a life-saving shock, but just having an AED is not good enough. You must make sure your AED is working in the hands of a trained volunteer responder. And if that sounds simple, you may not realize all you need to know and do to set up and maintain a successful AED. So to answer your question, the fastest way to cash is going to be setting up an AED program for your company, because you could lose your highest performing employee without one.
That's good. That's real good. Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way they can fix it?
I feel like I might have just answered that one.
A little bit.
Yeah, I think I might have answered that
you
question.
I'll give that to you. You did 1 and 2 in one.
But like fastest way. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just call both of them.
It was good. It was good. You covered it. I just want Expert Authority World to have the information, so I'm kind of lenient on the order of them.
I gotcha.
There's about 20 episodes. I asked all these in the wrong order until I got them right, and then I'm like, cool. The third one is, what is the best way for a company to maximize customer lifetime value?
I think about a quote from Winston Churchill. To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they're figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitting to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour. I believe that saving the life of a friend, family member, coworker, or even a complete stranger could in fact be your finest hour. And what a tragedy if that moment finds you unprepared, that is, without the resource of an AED in your home, business, or community, or unqualified, without the knowledge and hands-on training to correctly respond to an emergency situation. Look, I don't really care who you purchase or lease your AED from, but for heaven's sakes, get an AED. Get help. Set up your life-saving device for your home, office, and community group.
Well, that was impressive because that wasn't a quote. That was like Act 1 and you nailed it.
Thanks, man.
And also agree with what you're saying to save lives. But wow. Next question. Books. I have to ask you about books. What are some books you could recommend to Expert Authority World that have made an improvement in your business?
Books. So I went to Grant Cardone's 10X GrowthCon earlier this year for the first time. I think it was GrowthCon 3. Wow, was that influential on my life. So anything written by Grant Cardone, 10X Rule. There's several stuff. Let me just pull up my Audible because I listen to stuff. I don't actually read it because I'm able to do more things at once. Be Obsessed or Be Averaged. That's a good one. I'm in the middle of reading something called Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. Incredible books out there. You start one and then get a recommendation for the next one. And you'll have a reading list for the next decade.
It's cool. I remember when I was younger, like you're saying, you read the one and the best thing you can do. And I tell my authored clients, I go, make sure you put recommended books. And it's cool when you do multiples of your own and you can add other books by the author. Yes. Well, you have given me a lot to think about. I know you've given a lot for Expert Authority World to think about, and I thank you for it.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to come out.
Well, Expert Authority World, we have another great episode here. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and God bless.
How can you know where you're going if you don't know where you're at? Pipedrive CRM makes your business easier, more enjoyable, and more profitable by allowing you to easily organize your deals and move them through your pipeline, whether you're in the office or on the go. Get your free trial today at eainterviews.com/pipedrive. Stop wasting your time continually looking for your information when you can be investing it, adding more value to your prospects and clients. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/pipedrive. Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you got a lot out of it. I know I sure did. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to subscribe to the show. And also be sure to check out eainterviews.com for complete show notes, the full interview video experience, links to the resources we mentioned, and more. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow.